premise is that there's all these questions that, first of all, they have definitive answers, and getting those answers requires a lot of work. And to get those answers, I need to join your forum. I think I'm good, man. And to me, that day, I was like, I kind of started getting disillusioned with the whole concept of spirituality. I was kind of like, wait, what the fuck?
This
What
is
is this
bullshit.
for? Yeah, like what is like I mean, I kind of yeah, I want to make it a whole episode because I do have material prepared for it. Um, yeah, maybe we'll do it next time because it's pretty interesting, because I've been so much into this stuff that it kind of became its own structure and worldview, but there's not really much that makes it valid in terms of like it real, or worthy or or anything. But the fact that this guy talks about it so well and so prolifically and in such depth, it creates an illusion that there is something for you to, to also get and figure out and understand. And I think that's where the whole thing falls apart. I kind of started seeing through it. But I'm not sure what that means yet, because if there's no spirituality, then I don't know. But I feel like that's where everything leads for me. It's some kind of like grand disillusionment
But
where where you
that's the
just
spiritual part. That's the spiritual aspect of it. It's the realizing maybe that it's all.
it's kind of, yeah, realizing that there's nothing to realize. But that sounds
Well,
crazy
it
right
reminds
now.
me of that scene from Dune. Actually, it's like I don't care what you believe. I believe. It's the idea that some people can choose to a form of reality for themselves because they understand that they can't live without it. Even though, think about it. When Stilgar says that, he already have a conception that this might not be real. Like this whole thing
Mm.
might be just a story, right? And he's like, I don't care what you believe. I believe. So
Well,
my
he is clinging to it because that's like, yeah, it's like exactly like in my situation too, that you've invested so much time and energy into believing this stuff
that you
that
don't want it
your
to not
ident-
be true.
your identity is fused in it essentially.
Yeah.
Your identity is based on it. You are the guy who is prophesizing all this stuff. You're like, you gotta
Yeah.
believe it's this the thing, right? And then to come to the precipice of like, wait, this might actually not be real. At that point, essentially, it doesn't matter to you because the only difference is whether you spent your whole life believing it or your whole life minus 5 minutes. That's how much time and energy you spend
That's
thinking that that's real.
that's like the Matrix, man. It's like the
And it always
whole
goes back to Matrix.
when the Morpheus because that part is the story. The Morpheus realized that the prophecy is not true. It's not the way that he thought it was gonna be, even though he
Yeah,
believed it all this time, right? So there's that
yeah,
disillusionment for him as well. But then he embraced the new reality. That's the idea that the Neo brought the new kind of this is okay, this is well, even for him, he doesn't know. It's like I only know I need to reach the machine world. I need to talk to them. That was it. He didn't know what's gonna
it's
happen or how it's gonna happen or
yeah.
when
But then at that point, it's like kind of, it's not faith. It's just you uh, knowing, or you thinking like, well, this is the best course of action
right, it's a
regardless
feeling.
of everything
It's
else.
a
Yeah.
feeling of this
Eh,
might be the way it's gonna go. Right?
yeah,
He essentially walked into it blind, literally. Because in the movie he was blinded, but
yeah. And they kind of changed the whole belief paradigm from believing in prophecy to believing into a person, right? To believing that the person is wise and strong and smart enough to
to
guide
figure
them to
out,
salvation.
yeah,
Yeah,
because they were like, we don't know what's gonna happen. We have no control over it. The machines are coming. They're gonna destroy us. They're coming to destroy us. There's nothing we can do other than hoping that Neo found a way. right? That was it.
Yeah.
Literally, it could have failed. It could just literally just like, oh, nope, he was wrong, and that's the end of it. And so that's the nature of belief in a way, right? It's like how much is it? How much power does it have? It does. It certainly has power over people. Just think about all the things that people, believing in religion and what they do with it, right? So it's definitely very powerful for in the human world. But what does that mean when you realize that maybe this is not all it cracked up to be? Like whatever structure that you already formed is like, okay, that might not be true.
But that's everything, dude. Like these days, I am the least certain of anything like that I've ever been because I'm
It's
realizing that there isn't anything you can
there
be
isn't.
certain in.
So all the time that people felt they were certain was an illusion, right? It was an illusion that they
Pretty
thought they
much.
have control over the world. They thought they were, oh,
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all, you know.
It's the uncertainty, right? It's the people's way to deal with uncertainty because there's something so scary about understanding that there's nothing certain. Nothing is certain. Nothing is guaranteed. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what you can rely on. Uh, and just to combat that, you like, yeah, it's going to be, God will take care of us. Something, some kind of something explanation that will give you hope or some fake illusion of certainty to cling to.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
it's
the sun will rise again and everything will be
but see, so
groovy.
that's the thing, right? We wake up and it's all about hope. You hope that today gonna turn out better than. So you always have this kind of basically we're all delusional all the
Yeah,
time. It's like you
it's just a way to psych yourself up, right? This is why prayers exist, affirmations
yeah.
exist. You
So
kind of just trying to maintain a positive vibe,
so
essentially.
it means that even if after you disillusion, then you still have the question of, okay, what do I do with this? And there's still the same old question. So again, I go back to the Zen notion, the Zen saying, right? Before enlightenment, after
You
enlightenment,
still
it's the
do the same
same
shit.
same shit. It's still chop will carry water. It's the whole idea. So it's not like there's something to realize, or at least you will realize that there's nothing to realize, right? That's the point of you actually realizing the
But that
the
that part is difficult to for me to integrate
it's
that
difficult
wisdom
because
because
it is difficult
I don't know what you do then. What do you
because
do? Because you still have to do
it
stuff.
almost forces you to just believe for the sake of it, right?
What is your guiding principle?
Which is so weird because once you go meta, I mean, once you go meta, it's really hard to go back, right? Because that's why once you're disillusioned, it's hard to return to any sort of normal because your whole world shifted, the whole idea changed, right? But maybe it's curiosity. I think it's about, okay, what else can I find out now given this thing? Again, I go back to the Matrix. It's like the whole trilogy of Matrix is like this, right? Initially, Neo's mind shatters. Like, oh, the reality is, oh, this is the red pill. Oh, I see. This is the reality. But then, is that really the reality, right? Because he figured out, okay, these are the things that I have to deal with. I'm the one. I'm supposed to do this. But then he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. They tell me I'm the one. I have no clue.
Yeah.
So the whole
This is what
movie,
somebody says.
yeah. So the whole movie, he was finding out. He go to these different places, try to find answers, and the oracle says one thing, and then the other programs in the matrix show them something else. It's like, okay, so he at the end of it, before the end, he still had no clue what the hell's going on. Like, what am I supposed to
But
do?
the big thing there though is that some of the things that Oracle was saying were like all of the things that Oracle was saying were kind of true. He was being faced with a certain, with the situation that Oracle talked about, and same thing happened for everybody in the movie. So that was the big mystical part in the movie that doesn't really have parallels
Right.
with the real world because you don't have that.
Yeah.
We don't have psychics who are actual psychics.
But the idea is that when that's the kind of pattern that you want to bring about, then that's the kind of forces that you're moving towards that, right? The Because even then, with the movie, the machine did not anticipate Smith, and Smith did not anticipate that he's gonna realize something when he
Mm,
had that first encounter with Neo at the end of the first movie,
right.
where he got destroyed somehow. but he's a program.
Hmm.
He will be reinstated, rebooted. But when he's rebooted in a later movie, the encounter, he start explaining like, well, you changed me. Like
Mm.
you did something to me. I am free now. I'm not plugged into. So basically, he was unplugged from the Matrix. Like
Right.
Smith was unplugged from the Matrix. He starts seeing
I've
all
even
the
heard a theory that the Matrix is not about Neo being the one; it's about Smith being the one.
being the one.
Yeah, I've heard that explanation. I was like, it's almost complete, but because he got out of the Matrix too, right? Like Smith got out into the real world
Real
once,
world.
and what is that about? How is that even possible? So it's a lot of cool, interesting little side plots like that you could
Yeah,
ponder from those
but it
movies.
make you think. Okay, so what is the even in the movie, right? So I'll keep referring to what's the purpose? What's the purpose of
Mm,
your, you know? And in the end of the movie, at least it's the thematics from the third movie was like during that fight with Neo against Smith, the final fight,
mm,
seemingly Smith defeated Neo, right? He was down, and then
right.
Smith was saying, "Why do you persist, Mr. Anderson? You know it's a lost cause. Like I win, you lost. There's no
Uh,
reason for you to continue this."
yeah, yeah.
And then he said, "I chose to. I just chose to fight. I don't give a fuck if the reality is otherwise."
Mm,
Right? That's how he kind of. I guess that was his leap of faith because it's like because the thing machine were saying, okay, if you fail, if you're unable to control Smith, I'll just destroy humanity anyway. So
mm.
that was the deal at the end. But
High
Neo
stakes.
is like, okay, fine, I'll do that. Right? You go ahead. If I'm wrong, you can just wipe us all out. So then he had to fight with Smith, and then it was like this kind of the clash between the sort of trying to figure out what's real, what's not, right? The theme being that Neo chose because he believed this is the way to go, even though he doesn't know how that's gonna lead.
Hmm.
Even though the even though it seems like he was defeated, there was no, Smith already took over all the but something about him, Neo himself, because as Smith turned him into another Smith, it ended
Hmm.
up he was being affected by whatever exists in Neo, and that basically
Yeah,
killed him, uh, destroyed all the Smith, and returned it back
yeah.
to, which was basically the prophecy, right? The idea that the one will go back to the stores to restart, to
Hmm.
reboot the entire thing. So it was kind of a
Yeah,
version of it, a version of what they were telling him is the true nature to the system of the Matrix. Again,
yeah.
this is a very deep movie, but the idea, I think, the general theme that they're trying to kind of portray to you, to the audience, is that you might, even after you kind of become enlightened, so to speak, after you exit, you're gonna go through the disillusionment, right? For the realization. But even after that, it still require you to navigate essentially kind of on faith that the way that how you think about the world and everything else is the kind of you have to be comfortable with that. Almost like you making
Mm,
it up for yourself, right? It's like yeah,
mm,
nobody can tell you how things are measured or how things are supposed to be, but there are versions of this measurement, for example, right? Like you might not be able to perceive the exact nature of reality, say so to speak, and the exact
mhm.
notions, the exact dimension or what have you. Because even this fails, right? When we describe these things, okay, what do you mean by exact? Exact ending what, right? So, but it's all a version. All I'm saying is we created the measurement, the centimeters, the all these the foots, the inches. So is that version? Do you accept into that version of the world that you're living? Because you're always perceiving some version of the real thing, because there's no standard to compare it to. So, but you are perceiving it. And let's just say that, okay, you seem to see that, okay, all these other people who are just doing this kind of make believe, they're all talking to themselves about, oh, well, you should believe in this and that, and okay, even they can be very eloquent. They can talk about all these in very complex ways, but as you were saying, that you found that, well, even that seems BS. That they're just kind of inventing words salads to describe something in which you perhaps cannot explain at all, because right. It's so subjective, and it seems that everybody is just, I don't know. I guess they're just trying to, in this sense, how I understand it is like you found that, well, they're always trying to monetize it somehow, right? It's like, oh, join my forums, join my this thing, join my
Yeah,
thing, right? Because you're going into their circles. So
and the
it's
thing is, the reason I essentially I've seen that pattern several
too
times
many
already,
times. Yeah,
because it always is like that. It always is some guy who has the knowledge, and you have to join his thing and do the thing he says, and then monetization is involved. So
it's all a scam.
what if it's just a bunch of people trying to sell each other some bullshit?
Even if because that's,
What would be the proof otherwise?
yeah, it means that doesn't matter how eloquent you can talk about these concepts and what have you. You
Kind
still
of
don't know
looks like it.
shit. You still don't know
Kind of
shit. You
looks
don't
like it,
know.
yeah.
That's your version. That's your thing. You think
Because
that's the,
what is the thing? You're still the guy like me who gets to pay the bills and get the money. That's what
yeah,
anybody's doing, right? What changes? Like you were enlightened out of your ass. What now?
yeah. Well,
You
now
still get to get to work tomorrow, right?
are you gonna piss rainbows now? You know, like
Yeah,
what's the difference? You
yeah.
know,
What changes? And about actual physical reality, it's
again,
still water on wood, right?
but this is again, I go back to the quote, man, that beautiful quote from the movie Dune, right? The life is not a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. So the idea is that
Actually, do you know where that quote is from? It's not from the movie. It's
I think
from
Kierkegaard, right?
Kieran Sorkegaard. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's the
Soren
guy.
Kierkegaard. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the original quote. I know that. Yeah. So the again, the book would incorporate that whole concept. But the idea that, yeah, I think this is basically not as a definition, is more of like, practically speaking, this is should be what you're doing, right? Because you can question about reality. You can try to find out, okay, what's going on with everything. You can question, okay, why is it this way? Why is it that way? And And of course, if you make it into a problem to solve, it makes it easier to understand it. Because without putting it into a question, into an equation, then you got nothing. All you have is just, So there are senses why it makes certain sense to why you will want to measure all this stuff. Why would you want to make it into an equation, try to see, okay, what's the output? What's this and what's that? If you do this, what will change, right? That kind of investigative um, endeavor. But, in terms of what you do with it, I think it makes sense that sometimes it is just kind of like sit and marvel at the things that you do perceive. It's more like, sure, a lot of time you just have to stop and enjoy it in a way, right? It's like, yes, you can
Yeah.
ask these questions, try to find out about, and that can create its own kind of beauty and kind of marvel by just finding out the details, like what's going on with the real world. But sometimes it's just like, oh wow, I see that color. Okay, that's cool. That's very much, because there's almost nothing else you can do, right? Because even after you realize, oh, okay, it's all everybody's delusional. Everybody is just make it up as they go. But that's kind of it. That's the sort of reason why we have. I mean, the fact that we have creativity, we can just come up with something. What is that? Right? We come up with something, and some people actually enjoy what you come up with. It's like, oh, cool, that's so cool. You do it that way. You put this thing together, and that goes both with artistic endeavors and also even scientific. Sometimes the idea come to you, and then you kind of plug that number in, and then you found out about an equation that describes the universe or whatever, right? It's kind of so it's that kind of fun sort of sandbox we're living. Like everybody's just trying different things. Like, hey, this might be interesting. I put this together. It's like, oh, okay, this is cool. So we're just a whole bunch of kids playing in this sandbox, and everybody's doing their own
Yeah, that's what it
castle
seems
or
like.
they're building their own kind of thing. It's like, hey, look at what I made. It's like, oh, cool, that's cool. I like that. We're all gonna go for that. Like we all built this type of thing. It's cool, uh, right?
But this is why it seems to me that we're kind of trying to fill in the infinity with, hey, because what else would there be to do? Like everybody would need to do something for an infinite amount of time, which means like, yeah, the whole game is like find something interesting, dude,
Yeah.
because uh, you
Why
you can't
not?
afford to be bored, essentially.
Or at least you should use your boredom as a force to make you do something. You know, I think there's an expression somewhere, right? Talking about boredom is actually a quite important aspect. Like you actually want to be bored so that you actually are doing things. You don't want to be so bombarded by all these information all the time, and they're like you are always consuming all these stuff. Yeah, you're doing work by using your brain, but then it's just junk, right? Junk information or whatever. You're not processing that. So that's why a lot of artists do take these long breaks, for example, where they're just like, nope, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just relaxing. I'm just letting it all come back to me, right? Uh, be bored. And then once they're bored, they start using their head. It's like, okay, that's I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna do this thing, and then that become, create something new. So it's all dependent on how you use it, your time. And I think it's just like, yeah, you have this one time to experiment. Otherwise, as far as you know, right, you don't have a second life. You don't have a second time to like, okay, I'll try something out.
Yeah,
So it's
do your
like,
best right now.
do your best right now. Enjoy the process, right? You're not gonna know. You're not gonna know what will happen. And maybe the moral of it is the fact that you don't know what will happen. That is always going to be something new. There's always some variables and factors, right? So again, go back to the voice meter thing. Like for sure, in terms of what we wanted to do, that's a problem, right? But that's just an experience. You're experiencing this thing when they're not in the right sequence, that you're not getting the result that you wanted. But there's nothing inherently um, morally good or bad about the situation. It's a thing. It's just didn't work when you didn't have this thing on. But humans get frustrated because we want to achieve a certain result. So that's what happens. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like it's about embracing everything, right? The the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all part of the human experience. And knowing that, I guess the goal that does align with our fundamental kind of nature, which is lessen the suffering and enjoy life more. It just seems like we're just selfishly doing that all the time, right? More good experiences. That's what we're, trying to do all the time, right? You certainly don't want the negative ones, but then again, there are no negativity, so to speak, other than when you judge it from your human perspective. So it's all relative. So anyway, well, um, that's kind of what that kind of remind me of. Just the
Hmm.
idea that it is kind of paying attention, right? It is kind of paying attention to what's going on, but also kind of go with a sort of like, okay, I'm not going into anything with a sets of standards or sets of rules or sets of expectations, right? Because again, vis-a-vis the enlightenment idea, right? If you get disillusioned because you got enlightened, that's also because you have a notion in your head how it's supposed to be, even though you don't know what that is. But somehow the fact that you're disillusioned means that this is not the one you want. This is not the result that you want. Because otherwise, why would you be disillusioned if everything is working as intended,
Right.
right? You feel like something's wrong with this picture, right? Um, but when you feel like that, it's also somehow you're projecting a result because that's not matching what you wanted, even though you can't even name it. So that's the mystery of it, right? It's not like you don't know all the parameters. You, we don't have all the parameters at all. Why do we feel a certain way about this? Or why is this, because in the example you gave, that's more like the fact that you're disillusioned that is just basically everybody's trying to sell something. Everybody is just, you know,
Yeah, and
profiteering from,
there's not like what you don't even know what the result you can hope for. So the whole
uh
thing falls apart because what are you even thinking you're gonna get from it? You can't even, or I can't formulate it. Like it, I think I'm looking for some kind of uh I don't know, true rules about the world to exist in, or some kind of uh method or technique, to have a leg up on stuff. But that's so vague and general that
right.
that may not even exist.
And
So
and
the
that's
whole
also
thing falls apart there.
that's also a desire. You want a result, right? Some kind of thing that you wanted. You want it this way. Because it doesn't jive with how you see the world because you feel like this should be some form of the result, even though you can't verbalize it or you can't visualize it, what that means. So fundamentally is I guess it still goes back to an aspect of your desire not being met somehow. You have a certain expectation of something. Because like the mind is trying to figure it out, but it couldn't figure it out because it's like it's not
Yeah.
anything specific. It's almost like a feeling or something, or it's not concrete enough. And I don't know, maybe that's hunger, the sort not physical hunger, but like your ambition or desire basically, right? You desire a certain type of thing. Why do we all have this? What is it that do we ultimately desire? What's the, because everybody can ask and answer differently what they ultimately desire. So just the same way as what makes you happy, it's like nobody has an answer for that. Like not
Yeah.
really. You will say something, but that doesn't mean that that covers all of the bases. It could just be in that moment you feel like, yeah, this will make me happy. So that's all like, not consistent. It's not, so it's like life is a mood, it's like it's a sets of parameters in the right way, then that make you feel something. And something else is there's some other different emotions. And we're just kind of trying to quantify or understand it, right? Why is it that way? Or, you know, because there's so many ways you can go at this. Because there's the base level perception, and then there's the additional conception of abstract thinking, and and all, like, and how do you correlate all this information that you're getting? What's real? What's not? What's data? What's actually kind of concrete information? Like, is there a number? Is there some kind of measurable data that's being presented? Because that's like we're saying, people can talk about spirituality and it could just be like a mumbo jumbo that they kind of theorize, you know,
Yeah.
that's based on certain other theorizing that happened before, right? It could be along the line of the Buddhist thinking. So that has its own kind of history of where it came about. And then you're just adding to it your own commentary, essentially. That's what all these gurus are doing, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I
It's
think
all
this
just
is
a
how
bunch
it
of
is,
words.
right? And then you have consensus. Some people feel like, oh yeah, this is kind of the general thing that keep happening or whatever. Then we can quantify that as, okay, this is kind of the general, But even then, within all that thinking, there's so many different schools, right? Different schools of thoughts about that. This is why religion have different branching trees. They just believe a little bit different than the other guys, even though they generally agree on the gist of it. So, and that's kind of the chaotic beauty of life, I guess. It's just that there's so many different way to live, different uh way to look at the world, um, different state. Is your emotional state is so like two people can be watching a sunset and they can have very different emotions because of what elicits that, right? So what you perceive might be very different because you're colored by your emotionality as well. So it's like you can't separate all this into little chunks. It's all happening, all included, right? Because you
Hmm.
can't just strip away the memory and just experiencing what you experience. You can't do that. That's just not gonna work. It's always gonna through this system of your recollecting and attaching the scene with some kind of memory. It's just because it's why you have dreams sometimes, right? It's all jumbled up. It's all kind of this conjured up imagery that might be mistakenly put together somehow, right? Like it's not. That's why dreams are weird. It's like, but it feels so real with all these inputs being kind of put together. So life is a trip. It's like you don't understand what's going on, like what's happening, you know? It's like, okay, I see these patterns, but like that's it's changing all the time.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of like, essentially, even in non-duality space, the metaphor is life is just a dream.
Yeah.
Kind of all the same, has all the same characteristics,
Characteristics, yeah.
just a more stable one. But everything else is like a dream.